والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد كتاب الإيمان في صحيح الإمام البخاري رحمه الله تعالى. I'm not sure if we will finish it tonight or not. The hadith that are left in the book of Al-Iman, there are few in number, but there are, as all the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, are great in meaning, and it's some of these hadith are basically principles in this deen. It's about the foundation of the deen of Islam, and many rulings are based on these hadith, although there are few in number. And this is again in Kitab al-Iman, and as we've seen, we've read like 38 chapters in Kitab al-Iman so far. And the way of Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala, that he has these hadith and these chapters to prove and to show the belief of the people of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah with regards to matters of al-Iman. That the way that they followed the Quran and the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, the way that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the early generations of Islam, understood the meaning of al-Iman, which is the comprehensive meaning of it. That the Iman is not just a belief in the heart, it's the belief in the heart and the actions done by the heart and the speech of the tongue and the different actions by one's body. And the distorted belief or the misunderstanding of the meaning of al-Iman makes the person, as many of the Ummah today, they consider that they can perfect their deen by just having their heart sincere and they have belief, and that's it. Physical actions is not that important. Or sins, it's no major issues if a person commits sins or not, as long as his heart, as they claim, is clean and they have the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everybody will have their own understanding of what the deen of Islam is, and everybody claims to be righteous and religious, and they understand the deen of Islam in the perfect way. How would then a person know what is right and what is wrong? If we go back to the text, the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the way it was understood then. It shows that Al-Iman is the whole entire deen of Islam, and deficiency in Al-Iman is because of the sins, and increase of the Iman is with the good deeds. Then he says, بَابُ فَضْلِ مَنِ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِ. Chapter, Fadl is the virtue, مَنِ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِ. اسْتَبْرَأ لِدِينِ, that means he was seeking al-bara'a for his deen, meaning seeking the purification for his deen, seeking the protection of his deen, right? Seeking to distance himself away from anything that might harm his deen. So this can deal with matters of al-wara', or to abstain from some things that might be halal out of the fear that it might lead to the haram. We know that the haram, a person has to leave it. This is an obligation. No compromisation, no gradual thing in it, just leave it and stay away from it. And after the haram, there is a level which is the closest thing to the haram, as the hadith, you probably know now that the hadith is going to be mentioned here. There's a level or actions very close to the haram. They're not haram, but they're not in the safe area of the halal, pure halal. They are close to the haram. And this is where the believers, if, as the Prophet ﷺ ordered, as we will hear in the hadith, ordered us to leave what is closer to the haram, otherwise a person would fall into the haram. So this is part of al-Iman, yes. So al-Iman is to do what is obligatory, to stay away from what is haram, and also to stay away from the doubtful matters that might lead the person to haram. That's part of al-Iman. This is not just a high level of something, no, this is part of al-Iman itself. And if a person doesn't leave what is doubtful, he is definitely causing deficiency to his Iman, which is a dangerous thing. The hadith is قال حدثنا أبو نعيم قال حدثنا زكريا عن عامر قال سمعت النعمان بن بشير. I heard النعمان بن بشير رضي الله عنه يقول سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. I heard the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم saying, يقول الحلال بين والحرام بين. الحلال بين, clear, والحرام بين, meaning clear. وبينهما مشبهات. In this narration, وبينهما مشبهات. Between them are mushabbahat, things that are not clear. Things that can that is not clear, and that's it. Literally, things that can mean more than one thing. Looks like, things that look alike, right? They can be confused basically because they look alike. Ambiguous. نعم. لا يعلمها كثير من الناس. لا يعلمها كثير من الناس. Many of the people do not know it. That means it can be ambiguous to some, but bayyin and clear to others if they have the knowledge. So to some of the people of knowledge, the matter is not ambiguous. The matter is very clear to them that this is halal or haram, right? Or it can be in some things because of the reality of the people or the complexities of their life or whatever there is, it stays to be not clear because it depends on the action of someone else, right? You don't know if they're doing something right or wrong, and you're purchasing it from them. You're not sure if it's right or wrong, something like this. So these mushabbahat, the things that are not clear, the Prophet ﷺ said, فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الْمُشَبَّهَاتِ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِ وَعِرْضِ. Whoever ittaqa, from taqwa, shield himself, protect himself, stay away from, not from the haram is bayyin. That's the significance of this. We see that the haram does not need too much convincing here. Haram is to leave it, to stay away. But we're living in a time where when something is haram, we have to convince ourselves and to beg one another and to be very lenient and to use hikmah and wisdom. Of course we have to use hikmah and wisdom and so on, but haram is haram. We don't need to talk about the wisdom and this and that. Haram is haram. If the iman is present in the heart, believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most wise, and the believer, their goal is to know what's halal, what's haram. Once they know, that's it, the matter is finished, it's done. And that's, you see, from the context of the hadith. You won't find convincing to stay away from the haram. The haram is haram. فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الْمُشَبَّهَاتِ. The mushabbahat, the doubtful matters, they are the ones that the Prophet ﷺ said, فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الْمُشَبَّهَاتِ. Whoever shield himself and protect himself and stay away from the mushabbahat. Why did the Prophet ﷺ didn't say فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الْحَرَامِ? Whoever shield himself and stay away from the haram, because this is obvious. Believers, they stay away from haram, right? But here the mushabbahat, it needs this. That whoever stays away from it, from the matters that are not clear, the doubtful matters, istabra lidini wa'ird. Istabra, that he's seeking the bara'a, seeking the protection and the purification and all kinds of goodness for his deen, for his religion, and his ird, his honor and dignity. For his deen, it's clear. And the Prophet ﷺ gave the example. For the deen, it's clear, so that the person does not affect his deen in a negative way. And for his ird, for his honor and dignity, because when a person is doing something doubtful, people might think bad about him. Why he's in that area? Why he's standing next to a bar? He's not in the bar, he's outside. Maybe there's a store next to the bar, he's going to buy something, he has nothing to do with the bar. But because he's close to what is haram, he can have his honor and dignity to be attacked. You know, people would say, oh, this person owes advisors and everything, and look what he's going to that store that sells whatever, right? Although he might not be doing anything haram, but he's getting himself physically to a place that is haram. So whoever shield himself and protect himself, he's protecting his religion and his honor and dignity. وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man waqa'a," who fell in, not in the haram. It's obvious, whoever falls into the haram, this is musibah, this is calamity, right? But whoever falls in the mushabbahat, or shubuhat, in the doubtful matters, whoever falls in it, it's not clear haram by the way, but whoever falls in it, the Prophet ﷺ said, وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ. In this narration, he said, كَرَاعٍ يَرْعَى حَوْلَ الْحِمَى يُوشِكُ أَنْ يُوَقِعَ. It's like the shepherd, yar'a. What's the verb of shepherd? What does the shepherd do? Take his goats and do what? What's the word for it? Gaze or graze? Graze, right? Graze, the goats and the sheep. He takes them, that's what he does. Al-ra'i is the shepherd. Yar'a is the verb of it, right? So he's taking his animals. حول الحمى, around the hima. The hima is the sanctuary, is the protected area of the king that nobody can approach. The king usually lives in a palace or whatever he lives in. is not just the palace like a building, right? No, there's an area where it's forbidden from anyone to enter, right? Because they have to protect the king. So كالراعي يرعى حول الحمى يوشك أن يوقع. If he takes the ra'i, if the shepherd takes his animals to what is forbidden for him to be, and he gets closer to the fence, what happens? يوشك أن يوقع. يوشك, this is أوشك and يوشك and so on from أفعال مقاربة. That means it's a verb to show that the matter is very close. If he takes his animals right by the fence, that means he's going to enter there. Because he can't control the goats and the sheep, and the goats are very energetic, right? One of them might jump into the forbidden land, the shepherd gets in big trouble.
The flock.
The what?
The flock.
The flock of the sheep, yes. But what does he do himself? What's his action when he's what? He's not flocking the sheep, right? He's doing something. That's the verb that So anyway, so if one goes in there, he has no fault, but his fault was that he took them close. That's why he should have been wise that he keep them away from that area. And then the Prophet ﷺ, after giving that example that everybody understands and everybody knows, and no shepherd whatsoever would dare to go there because they would shoot him and kill him, and kill the animal or whatever, then the Prophet ﷺ said, أَلَا وَإِنَّ لِكُلِّ مَلِكٍ حِمًا. That indeed for every malik, for every king, there's hima, there's sanctuary, there's an area where it's protected and nobody can dare to come close. أَلَا إِنَّ حِمَى اللَّهِ فِي أَرْضِهِ مَحَارِمُ. That indeed the hima of Allah, the protected area of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His earth, maharimu, is what is haram. So this is the example of the haram. The haram is something that a person should not approach. The sanctuary, a person, if he do the haram, that means he got in there, into what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had forbidden. People would have the fear of the kings if they get closer to the place, because they would kill them. And the same thing with forbidden things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid is what is haram. أَلَا إِنَّ حِمَى اللَّهِ فِي أَرْضِهِ مَحَارِمُ أَلَا وَإِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةً. So this example shows that the person should not do like the shepherd takes his goats closer to the hima. It should be far away. Although right after the hima, right outside the fence, it's a permissible. Nobody would do anything to him. He's safe. But since he's there, he cannot guarantee that he won't fall. Especially with haram, on the haram, forbidden things, you have shaitan is whispering, and the desire and the nafs is pushing the person to fall into the haram. So when a person goes closer to the haram, he definitely has to fall into the haram. No doubt. And is another narration of the hadith, as the Prophet ﷺ said, وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبُهَاتِ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ. Whoever do the doubtful matters, he would fall into the haram for sure. Although when he was in the shubuhat, he's not necessarily did haram, but it would lead him to the haram. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, أَلَا وَإِنَّ فِي الْجَسَدِ مُضْغَةً. Indeed, in the jasad, in the body, there is mudgha. Mudgha is a chewed, like a gum, something chewed, right? Which is a piece of flesh that looks like a chewed gum. إِذَا صَلَحَتْ صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. If this small piece of flesh, if it's صَلَحَت, if it's safe, if it's sound, صَلَحَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ, the whole body will be sound, all of it. وَإِذَا فَسَدَتْ فَسَدَ الْجَسَدُ كُلُّهُ. And if it's corrupted, then the whole body will be corrupted. أَلَا وَهِيَ الْقَلْبُ. Indeed, it is the qalb, it's the heart. This piece of flesh, if it's corrupt, the whole body is corrupted. If it's sound, the whole body will be sound. So the statement of the Prophet ﷺ means that the heart is, as they say, is like the king, and the different parts of the body is like the soldiers. If the king is good, the soldiers will act because they take the orders from the king. So that's why if somebody do something wrong, clearly that it's wrong physically, then without checking what's in his heart, if he has the knowledge of course, without having to check what's in his heart, we can say that his heart is corrupted. He has problems in his heart, right? A person would say, but you didn't check what's in my heart. My heart is clean and pure. If your heart is clean and pure, you would not commit the sin, right? But if a person appears to us, he's not committing any sins, we can't say that his heart is pure. Allah knows best. Maybe it's showing off. So we say that we hope that he's like this. We think that he's a good person. But you see the difference? So it's never an excuse for someone committing a sin, and he says, but my heart is clean, to have the good expectations of that person. He doesn't know what the meaning of the heart is clean is, because he's lying. His heart is not clean. His heart is filthy according to what sins he's committing, right? Even if it's a very small, tiny, little sin, right? And this is one of the, again, foundations. The hadith is foundation of this deen, because it talks about, big portion of the deen, the halal and the haram, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy that the halal is clear and the haram is clear, and we know what to do with the halal. It means to enjoy it and seek pleasure from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to have the right intentions with it, to get rewards doing it in the proper way, and the haram, to stay away from it without any conditions whatsoever. And what's in between, if it's a doubtful matter, the matter is not clear, is to stay away from it. And the hadith, دع ما يريبك إلى ما لا يريبك. Leave what is doubtful to you, that worries you, to what is not worrying you. Why you want to live in misery? Just leave it. And one of the early generations of Islam, Sufyan ibn Uyayna, rahimahullah, he said this is the easiest thing, this is the most happiest thing, more or less of what he said with this hadith. It makes your life very pleasant and happy. Leave what worries you to what is not worrying you. This is a way of life. Something that will make you worry, leave it. Like, we're not talking about essentials of this life. We're talking about the doubtful matters that you have many options to leave it. Why you make it so tight on yourself? Right? The world is, mashallah, is very spacious. Do what is easy and spacious. So this is this one hadith, and again, we did not fulfill its rights because it's, mashallah, something that needs to be dealt with so much details. The next hadith is باب أداء أو باب أداء الخمس أو الخمس من الإيمان. أداء الخمس من الإيمان. To give al-khums, or the 1/5 from the booty of the war and things like that, it's from al-iman. This is part of al-iman. It deals with the booty of the war, right? That this is also part of al-iman. That this is not something separate. And the hadith is قال حدثنا علي بن الجعد قال أخبرنا شعبة عن أبي جمرة قال كنت أقعد مع ابن عباس يجلسني على سرير. Abu Jamra, he used to translate for Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. Translate to the people. Farsi, right? And Ibn Abbas, of course, radiallahu anhu, would speak Arabic. So some people might not understand Arabic, he would translate to them. So he said, I used to sit on the same seat next to Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. Abbas radiallahu anhu, big alim, the nephew of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and people used to come to him with matters of knowledge from all subjects of knowledge. With linguistics, they come in, ask him questions, answer them like never before. They leave, the people of fiqh come in, ask questions, he would give them answers as never before. They go, tafsir of the Quran, all subjects of knowledge. So he used to have this person as, for some people that needs translation. And actually this hadith will be repeated because of this evidence that it's permissible to have a translator, or to translate matters of knowledge. Not that these people are students of knowledge, no, they just need to know what's halal, what's haram, right? Different than studying the deen. Studying the deen should be with the language of the deen, the Lugha al-Arabiya, the Arabic language, otherwise a person would not understand the deen. And we should give up this actually with no politically correctness. The person does not, a person can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with whatever language. But he will, mashallah, save himself from the hellfire, go to Jannah and everything by the will of Allah, but he has to ask the people of knowledge. He's always going to depend on the people of knowledge, and this is for everybody anyway. He cannot leave it up to himself that he understands things in the deen based on English or French or whatever it is. He will have misunderstanding, no doubt. Right? The only way that a person can have the full understanding of things is that the person has to understand the language of the deen. Because this is the language that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for the deen to be, with the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But again, as we said, it's not mandatory for every person. At least there is a portion mandatory for a person to recite Surah Al-Fatiha and so on. And a person can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfectly, no doubt. But to be in the level of the people of knowledge and so on, this is one of the easier way to figure out. Many people, they They claim to be from the people of knowledge, and they're nothing but storytellers, right? Or people getting motivations to people. MashaAllah, this is a good thing if it's done in an authentic way, but they're not ulama, right? Then we have to be humble. And the same thing when people call, someone even like myself, we have to be honest with each other. There's no ulama. I don't know any, and I don't exaggerate, but that's my deficient in knowledge. I don't know if I should say that, but I personally do not know ulama in the United States. I don't know, maybe somebody else knows, Allah. There's people, mashallah, they have knowledge, mashallah, right? But to say alim and the whole day and night speaking English like this, doesn't work this way, right? Anyway, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us. And again, this is not the language of a race, this is the language of the deen, right? So any Muslim, the East and the West, and everyone, if they pursue knowledge, then they have to study the language of the deen, and they spend the time and the effort so that they will understand the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And it's no exaggeration, as some of the ulama, they say, one of the reasons of deviation, one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons of deviations is al-ujma, is when a person does not have the understanding of the language of the deen. So you find all kinds of misunderstanding as a result of that, when people claim to have knowledge and so on. We got off the subject here, but the issue with the translation. The ulama talked about the translator. If Ibn Abbas does not understand Farsi, this translator can say whatever he wants, right? So that means he has to be a trustworthy person, because his words will be taken, it's not going to be the words of the translator, it's going to be the words of Ibn Abbas. So he has to be a trustworthy person, right? And I remember I mentioned this before. One time I was in somewhere, and there was a translator, and I'm speaking in Arabic, and the translator is speaking in some of the local languages in Africa. And I say something in 1 minute, and he speaks for 15 minutes. And I was like, what's this guy saying? And so, he's not repeating himself, and people are reacting to what he's saying. They, you find them happy, and then, and I don't see myself said all of this. So I discovered that the guy, of course, was very obvious. He's adding stuff from his own, examples and things like this. So I stopped him and I told him, I did not give you the right to do this. Your job is to translate for me. If you have a question, I can give you the examples. But this is very dangerous. I don't know what this guy is telling them. And then one of the things also that the language is very poor, vocabulary-wise. So for one word, he has to explain it with few sentences, which is fine, if you know the Arabic language. But to give examples and back and forth, so this is a subject, an important one with matters of translation. So anyway, so he said he used to sit with Ibn Abbas, يجلسني على سريري, next to him. فقال أقم عندي حتى أجعل لك سهما من مالي. Stay with me, he told him, stay with me and I will give you a share from my money. فأقمت معه شهرين. I stayed with him for 2 months because that's what he was doing. ثم قال إن وفد عبد القيس لما أتوا النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, the delegation of Abd al-Qais, when they came to the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, and this hadith is famous, and Abd al-Qais, when they are mentioned, the delegation, because the hadith talks about principles and foundation of the deen of Islam. And I would say briefly because the hadith is a little bit long. لما أتوا النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, when they came to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, من القوم, who are the people? أو من الوفد, who are the delegation, who are you? قالوا ربيعة, this is part of their tribe. قال مرحبا بالقوم أو بالوفد غير خزايا ولا ندم. Great benefits ulama they take from this. Prophet ﷺ told them, مرحبا بالوفد. مرحبا means welcome, right? I don't know if welcome is the right word. Rahb is the spaciousness, right? So it's when you welcome someone, words of greeting, right? That you come to matters of spaciousness, that you make this guest comfortable, that you are comfortable with them and so on. غير خزايا ولا ندم, that you are not to be turned down or deprived or regretful, right? It's all means of greeting that makes the person comfortable. So the Prophet ﷺ said these things. فقالوا يا رسول الله, they said, O Messenger of Allah, إنا لا نستطيع أن نأتيك إلا في الشهر الحرام. We cannot come to you except in the الشهر الحرام, in the sacred months. why? وَبَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكَ هَذَا الْحَيُّ مِنْ كُفَّارِ مُضَرٍ. And between you and us is this people from Kuffar Mudar, and they used to fight the whole year. So they're scared of their life and their wealth if they come other than the Ashhur al-Hurum, because the Arab in Jahiliyyah, they would respect the sacred months, they won't fight in it. So this is the only time that they can come and they will be safe with their wealth and their life. So as a result of that, فَمُرْنَا بِأَمْرٍ فَصْلٍ نُخْبِرُ بِهِ مَنْ وَرَأَنَا وَنَدْخُلُ بِهِ الْجَنَّةِ. This is out of the wisdom and knowledge. And the wisdom of knowledge of the questioner is very important, right? They don't give a story, right, and make the matter so unclear. They said they give their introduction very precise to make the matter that they have an issue, they have a circumstance here, and then they said to the Prophet ﷺ, then as a result of that, order us, by something, an order, fasl. Fasl means qat', clear. Not can mean more than one thing. Very precise order. نُخْبِرُ بِهُ مَنْ وَرَأَنَا, that we inform those who are behind us, our people, and when we go back to them. وَنَدْخُلُ بِهِ الْجَنَّةِ, and we will enter Jannah by what you tell us. Right? وَسَأَلُوهُ عَنِ الْأَشْرِبَةِ, and they asked the Prophet ﷺ about the ashriba, what they drink. Mainly it used to be for them that they used to do wine and things like this. So the Prophet ﷺ فَأَمَرَهُمْ بِأَرْبَعٍ وَنَهَاهُمْ عَنْ أَرْبَعٍ. The Prophet ﷺ ordered them with 4 things and forbade them from 4 things. أَمَرَهُمْ بِالْإِيمَانِ بِاللَّهِ وَحْدَهُ. He ordered them to believe in Allah alone. Right? And then he said to them, أَتَدْرُونَ مَا الْإِيمَانُ بِاللَّهِ وَحْدَهُ. Do you know what al-Iman billahi wahda? Do you know what it means to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone? They said, Allah wa Rasuluhu a'lam. And this is one of the ways of teaching, right? The Prophet ﷺ will ask them, so that the matter, they get their attention, right? So that when the information is given, it's very clear and precise, because they might not come back, and they would take this message and they would inform their people, right? So the matter has to be very clear. So they said, Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam knows best. قال شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله. To be a witness that there is no one worthy of worship except Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the messenger of Allah. وإقام الصلاة, and to establish the salah. وإيتاء الزكاة, and to pay the zakah. وصيام رمضان, and to fast Ramadan. وأن تعطوا من المغنم الخمس, and to give from the booty 1/5. This was mentioned, right? And Hajj was not mentioned. It was said that Hajj was not obligatory yet. So this is why this hadith in this chapter, and it shows that how the Prophet ﷺ defined al-Iman billah, to believe in Allah alone, by these things. He did not tell them, just believe in Allah and the greatness of Allah. Right? He gave them the pillars of al-Islam. And it shows how the pillars of al-Islam is used to understand al-Iman. And the pillars of al-Iman also means al-Islam. And this is the comprehensiveness of understanding the deen. So that means if they took this from the Prophet ﷺ and they did not establish the salah, did they then believe in Allah alone? Very obvious that they don't. If they don't establish the salah, they don't pay the zakah, because this is what the Prophet ﷺ gave them as an Iman billahi wahda. This is how for them to believe in Allah alone, not just the shahadateen and that's it. It's all of this, and even to give the 1/5 of the booty of the war. وَنَهَاهُمْ عَنْ أَرْبَعٍ, and he forbade them of 4 things. عن الحنتم والدباء والنقير والمزفت. Right? وربما قال المقير وقال احفظوهن وأخبروا بهن من وراءكم. And he said to them, memorize it, احفظوهن, memorize it, and inform those who are behind you, meaning your people. What are these 4 things? الحنتم, right? This is all different types of drinks, because they asked about drinking. Al-Hantam is a special type of the jarra, what's jarra? Jar. Like a jar from clay or something that they used to make wine in it. When they keep it for a long time to be good and high expensive and so on. So it's a special type of a jar, right, that they would use to make wine. So the Prophet ﷺ forbade them from this. What dubba is the yellow thing when Halloween, what's it called?
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin. The pumpkin, right? What's the pumpkin? Not to eat the pumpkin. They used to take the stuff out of the pumpkin and use it for storing wine or alcohol and so on. When naqir, and naqir is the base of the palm tree. They would take it, also make it hollow, and they would put in it, the drinks, the alcohol and the wine and so on. Well, muzaffat, right? Muzaffat from zift, right? Which is we have it. This is back home as a cuss word. Is the tar, the black tar. But we have a city actually usually called Zifta. So it's a village called Zifta. So it's they would paint the outside of whatever the containers with the tar, so that it keeps, I guess, the flavor or something, for a long time. وَرُبَّمَا قَالَ الْمُقَيَّرُ, which is the same thing. So the Prophet ﷺ did not just tell them khamr is haram, because these people, they were experts and they have all kinds of things that they do. So to make it clear to them, right? So that because they wanted a qawl fasl, they wanted a clear statement, right? So that's why the benefit, if someone comes and you know that their environment or their people, whatever, they're expert on something, then if you tell them wine is haram, okay, then whatever other kind that they don't call it wine, they might think it's halal. Beer, for example. He said wine only is haram. But if you tell them beer is haram, wine is haram, right? So then there's no excuse, there's no way out. Right? So the person has to have the wisdom, and the alim should have the wisdom of where these people are coming from, right? And ask of what their situation is, so that the answer is not ambiguous, right? And this is all part of it.